Bozeman, Montana. A town wrapped in greenery and silence. Evil rarely visits this place, but life, as it often reminds us, proves that even in paradise, horror can strike. Bozeman is a small city nestled in a scenic valley, once known as the Valley of Flowers. For centuries, it was home to Native American tribes until European settlers arrived in the 19th century. One of them, John Bozeman, gave the town its name. In the 1990s, just over 50,000 people lived here. Mountains towered in the distance, forests hugged the edges, and fast-moving rivers laced the land. People trusted the wild, embraced it. Children were raised under open skies. No one ever imagined this land could harbor tragedy. The Hutchins family, Cheryl and Rex, were raising 3 children: Jake, Stephanie, and Danny. The eldest, Danielle Adeline Hutchins, was born on November 11th, 1980. Everyone just called her Danny. She was the heart of the family, bright, curious, full of laughter. She loved biology and chemistry, hiking in the mountains, skiing and horseback riding. Her joy echoed through the house. Her younger sister, Stephanie, looked up to her with wonder, as if she were some kind of hero. Danny and Stephanie were inseparable. Together, they explored forests, floated down rivers, and grew up in this quiet paradise where danger felt like a myth. In 1996, Danny turned 15. Montana law allowed her to drive at that age, and she proudly ran errands in her pickup truck. Life moved gently, until one September evening changed everything. September 21st, 1996, began like any other. The sun rose slowly over the mountains. The air was crisp, the forest still. No one knew that by nightfall, nothing would be the same. That Saturday, there was a typical argument in the Hutchins home. Teenagers, especially the smart, free-spirited ones, don't always see eye to eye with their parents. Danny wanted some time alone. She grabbed her keys, and her mother, Cheryl, handed her a wristwatch so she wouldn't forget to be back by evening. Guests were expected. No one worried. Danny was independent. She knew the woods like her own skin. She trusted her instincts, and everyone trusted Danny. As the sun began to set, Danny didn't come home. 1 hour passed, then another. And something inside Cheryl stirred. A mother's intuition. Something was wrong. Her parents drove out to search for her. They knew where she had planned to go. Cameron Bridge, along the Gallatin River, where thick woods lined the banks. And that's where they found her truck. It was unlocked. Inside were Danny's things, and her father's laptop. The keys were lying on the nearby trail. A water bottle, too. It wasn't like her. Danny never left her truck unlocked, and she would never leave her dad's laptop behind. Something had happened. Cheryl left a note on the windshield. "Danny, wait here. We'll be back soon." Then she called the police. Searches began. Day faded. The woods grew dark. Flashlights flickered through the brush. People combed every slope, every patch of undergrowth. It was 5 p.m. As night fell, official searches were suspended. But volunteers kept going. 2 brothers were the ones who found her, just 60 meters from the truck in the brush. She was lying face down, one shoe still on, the other off to the side. One arm stretched forward. The watch had slipped down her wrist, mud and water all around. It looked like someone had tried to hide her. One of the brothers later said he didn't feel fear in that moment. He felt dread, as if something in the forest had broken and would never be the same. They walked back to the truck. A pickup was pulling up. It was Danny's father. When Danny's body was found, Stephanie was at home with their mother. Their father had gone to the river. When he returned, he told them the search was over. "She's gone," he said. Cheryl didn't understand right away. Only after a pause did he clarify. "She's not coming back." It shattered them. Danny was their eldest child. Her absence was immediate and deafening. The house felt unnaturally quiet. Stephanie, just 12, tried to keep calm. On Monday, she chose to go to school, hoping somehow it would help her parents hold it together. Everyone already knew. Teachers, classmates, they offered condolences. Among Danny's friends, whispers began. What really happened? There were no answers yet, no clear explanation. Just silence. About 400 people came to the funeral. It was held in the local church. The service was brief. Afterward, there was a line. Relatives, neighbors, classmates, all came to say goodbye. Not long after the funeral, the family was told Danny's death had been ruled an accident. According to police, she likely slipped and drowned in a shallow pool by the riverbank. Her family struggled to accept that. But no further explanation came. The investigation was closed. Officially, it was over. And for the next 24 years, the circumstances of Danny's death remained unchanged. For the Hutchins family, it became a fact of life. A wound they carried quietly. In the early 2020s, a new team began working at the Gallatin County Sheriff's Office. Old files were being reviewed. Among them was the case of 15-year-old Danielle Hutchins. One detective, Matt Boxmeyer, picked up the file and kept reading. The autopsy report noted bruising on the back of the neck and head. There were also scratch marks, consistent with someone trying to push away an attacker from behind. Signs of sexual assault were recorded. Male DNA had been found, along with several hairs in her underwear. One chilling detail stood out. Mud was found, not only in Danny's airway, but also in her stomach. This meant she had been alive when her face was pushed into the water. Boxmeyer questioned the original ruling. He notified his superiors. In 2021, following an internal review, the cause of death was officially changed from accidental to homicide. Stephanie, Danny's sister, was informed. The truths hidden from the family in the 90s were now out in the open. After 24 years, the case was reopened. With the case reopened, newly appointed Sheriff Dan Springer took the lead. He believed the original investigation had been shallow. To pursue justice, he reached out to a retired detective, Tom Elfmond. Elfmond had worked serious crimes in Los Angeles and had recently retired to Montana. He planned for a quiet life, but when he heard about Danny's case, he offered his help. The focus was on re-examining the evidence. Some items hadn't been tested thoroughly in the 90s, but now, with modern technology, a preserved sample yielded a partial genetic profile. It didn't match anyone in the national database. To go further, genealogist C.C. Moore was brought in. Using open-source DNA databases and family trees, she traced the profile to a family in New Hampshire. Her work led to a name: Paul Nathaniel Hutchinson. He was born and raised on the East Coast, but moved to Montana on July 1st, 1996. He was 27 at the time. He enrolled at a local university and worked part-time for the Forest Service. Later, he married, raised 2 children, and worked in administration. In 2024, he was living in Dillon, about 100 miles from Bozeman. His name and location were passed on to investigators. The next step was clear. With Hutchinson's identity confirmed, investigators decided to approach him directly. Legally, they could have gathered DNA without his knowledge. But Detective Elfmund insisted on a face-to-face meeting to gauge his reaction. On July 23, 2024, officers arrived at Hutchinson's workplace in Dillon. They introduced themselves as Gallatin County deputies, conducting a survey on fishing access along the Gallatin River. Hutchinson didn't hesitate. He invited them into his office. The conversation was recorded on a body camera. They showed him several photos. One of them was Danny Hutchins. They reminded him her body had been found near Cameron Bridge in September 1996. He said the name meant nothing to him. When asked if he'd ever fished in that area, he replied that he had fished all over, but couldn't say exactly where. When asked if he'd been there in September, he shook his head and said he didn't think so. Then he paused and asked, "Are you trying to say I had something to do with this?" The officers didn't respond. The conversation was brief. Hutchinson walked them out. He was not detained. There was no legal basis for it. But on camera, his discomfort was evident. He sweated, avoided looking at the photo, bit his lip. His voice faltered whenever 1996 or the Gallatin River came up. Afterward, surveillance was initiated. Following that meeting, Hutchinson's behavior changed. He drove aimlessly, changed directions without reason, avoided people, sat parked with his headlights off for long stretches. By evening, he was driving outside town. He stopped repeatedly on country roads, never going into stores or homes. His behavior was concerning. The next morning, July 24th, at 6:14 a.m., a call came to emergency services. A man, claiming to be an officer, reported someone in uniform needing urgent help at a specific location. When deputies arrived, they found the body. It was Paul Hutchinson. Inside his vehicle, a firearm registered to him lay nearby. He had taken his own life. A warrant was granted to test his DNA. The posthumous sample matched the one from the 1996 case, a perfect match. Hutchinson and Donnie had never met. At the time of her death, he was working for the Forest Service and had often been near the Gallatin River. Investigators concluded the crime was opportunistic. With his identity confirmed, the investigation closed. No charges, no trial. The suspect was dead. For the Hutchins family, it meant closure. They had an answer, but no explanation. After the investigation formally ended, the Hutchins family was granted full access to the case files. The truth was no longer hidden. In September 1996, Paul Hutchinson encountered Danny near Cameron Bridge. He raped her, then drowned her in a shallow puddle. He dragged her body into the brush. When she was found, she was still dressed. Her mother's watch was on her wrist. Hutchinson's death was seen as an admission of guilt. He left no note, reached out to no one. less than 24 hours after speaking with officers. He ended his life. Stephanie Hutchins later said that even without a trial, she believed the investigation's findings. He knew he was guilty, she said, and he couldn't face the people he hurt. Part of Danny's ashes had been scattered in the mountains outside town. The rest Stephanie kept. After the case was closed, she let them go, along the Gallatin's Edge, where her sister had been found. At a final press conference, Stephanie said this story wasn't just about loss. It was about women who never gave up, about Donnie, who fought till the end, and a sister who made sure the truth was heard. The investigation into Danielle Hutchins' death took 28 years, and finally it ended.